All right, good morning, everyone. Today is the Town Council regular meeting, Wednesday, May 4th, 2022, at 8 a.m. in the Town Hall Rose Room. We also stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is it for you? Wow.
No, John has
Okay, we'll move on to item number 2, visitors. Are there any visitors that would like to be recognized at this time? Any visitors?
I'm a visitor here for the beautification committee, which is on the agenda, but I'm just here as a connection with the good friend Bruce.
Okay, you, John. Anybody else? All right. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes for the April 27th, 2022 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve? A second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, item number 4, which are reappointments. So Hugh Birchdale and Aaron Lindsay both submitted an email that said they were interested in remaining on Sustainability Committee, so we'll look for a motion to appoint both Hugh and Aaron to the Sustainability Committee until 6/30/2024.
Make that motion.
And a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Item number 5, Beautification Committee. So Carl has provided to us the Advisory Committee on Beautification, the charge, which we discussed in the last meeting, that we want to present the charge to the Beautification Committee. So I guess we'll open it up and see, obviously, hopefully everybody's reviewed it. Do we have any questions on the charge that has been put forth for the Beautification Committee? No discussion? Go ahead, Lisa.
I would like to ask,
Yeah.
with this coordination with town agencies, the committee will be responsible. I would like to see, if possible, the DPW, who does such a great job with fields, our roses in the back, if they could be asked to please help maintain these spots. Carl?
That's going to be a problem for what we have the capacity in the staff to do. We don't have a truck with a tank of water to deliver water. That was mentioned before.
We will all be carrying gallon jugs of water.
If,
You can add to that.
this beautification committee right now has this project in mind, and I think that the scope of the project has changed from hanging baskets to barrels, which is much more accessible. But in the future, there are going to be more projects that they're taking on, and to me, it seems like it would be advisable to outfit DPW with the means to do this, because the actual watering process is not a lengthy process, but it is our DPW, and they should be responsive to what it is that the town council would like to see them do. So I'm just forward thinking, just future thinking, perhaps supplying them with the vehicle, which I think would just be a tank with a pump and a hose, that you put in the back of a pickup truck and drive around town and water these items, which would be, within a 1 mile radius of each other. So that for future thinking, because I know DPW used to do it in the past. Pete Neff did watering of the garden club planters in the past when, before a few administrations ago, they handled it. I don't know how they did it, but they did. So I'd just like to go back to that, to the historical public works maintenance of public projects. So that's just food for thought there.
And one more, just so it's not a surprise later on, let's see, about 4 different groups who are represented by the beautification committee really want to see the pollinator pathway come in, and that's another way in which DPW could help us out by maybe clearing some ground. for this to happen. Just so it's not a surprise later. That
I think
will be
this
another
is Public
project.
Works gonna fit out, public property or private property?
This particular property, of course, would be ours, behind
I
Putnam
don't
Grade.
think they would have to be.
Yes,
sold.
yes, 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 yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You can't have Public Works. on
I just didn't want that to be a surprise later, but the pollinator pathway is definitely something to do.
I mean, I think we got, I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
I just didn't want.
Way ahead of ourselves, because right now, we're right before us now is an advisory committee on beautification. Our charge right now is to, as a council, agree that we want to form this committee, we want to set up a membership, and we want to move forward with that. As far as what's going to happen down the road, they're an advisory committee, they can come forward to the council at any point in the future, and then have these discussions about kind of what we want to do. Obviously, there will be, I guess, bigger conversations, because they're all related to the budget items as well, because we'll be purchasing something for DPW, you know, putting it out there, you know, on their calendar of items that they would need to complete. So that's, you know, obviously that's something that we can work with going forward.
Just didn't want to create a surprise. Yeah.
Is it, so it's not a surprise to me when I see the charge? Yeah. It'd be nice just to, if you explain to us what you think the relationship is supposed to be.
Yeah, this is all posted on our website. So this is what's posted on the website.
Here, I can give you, here.
Yes.
The fire department also has a tank truck as well. Someone might want to kindly check in with them, and perhaps they would be willing if it was,
You say the fire department?
they have a tanker truck, it might be an option. I don't mean to put out.
I mean, that's what I mean, there are plenty of things that we can work with.
I think Chris is right, though, this is kind of premature. I mean, right now is how we form the committee, how the relationship is with the town council, what are the steps we have to go through, how do we ask for money, what do we need for money. I mean, Hesser has water trucks all the time, so they exist. But I think right now, I'd like to know, we've got this great group of people together,
Yeah.
very energetic, people you don't usually see doing things, which is a benefit for the town. How do we work well with you folks? You've already got somebody on the committee who's on the town council, and sometimes we worked before, a la the 350, a long time ago, where somebody who's actually a member of the town council was the liaison, and they kind of helped shepherd through. Now it's, you know.
Well, that's another topic as well.
That's
So whether it's a member of that committee and or a liaison to that committee, we've always been on this committee, making sure that we're not putting council.
I think you should be
members on
members,
advisory.
well, I think that should be members, actually. I think it should change and become more
Yeah.
active. But that's the thing, if you explain to us what your understanding is, so at least we know how we're going to be working.
And it's new to everybody.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think as this grows and as this goes forward within, you know, people seeing what's going on, seeing people that are involved, you're going to get more people that want to be involved. You may get people that want to come forward and say, I'm going to donate something.
The labor's easy.
Right.
It's the getting the money that's the hard
Yeah.
part, okay? The labor is simple. You got a bunch of people that volunteer that want to do it.
Yep.
It's how do we do it so that Carl can say, yes, this fits regulations, how we apply for money, how long would it take, what kind of substantiation we need for it. That's the important thing. We can go out right now and buy barrels of our own money, which is basically.
I thought you said you were going to do that.
We're not.
No, you.
Well, we could.
No, you.
Actually, I have barrels ordered. I have barrels for something else ordered. But that, I mean, that's it. And
Right.
it should be an easy, fun thing. It should not be onerous. This is a good thing, you know?
Yes, and I mean, I think it's a work in
That's
progress.
the right way to do it, so that you guys can say, you know, it's worth $2,000.
So let's, I mean, obviously, lay the groundwork, get the
Right.
committee formed, and then we can, you know, that's obviously the starting point. We don't have a committee, we don't have anything anyways. So, I guess the issue then, if there are questions, comments, as far as, I guess they discussed the 7 members of the committee, the 2-year terms. Meetings are just, don't know what to follow there. Is there anything else here that anybody would have any questions?
I do have a question. If, I read in the charge that it says if they were to do any fundraising, they would have to have prior permission from the town council.
It's grants, right?
No, it's
Both.
both. It's both
Yeah.
grants and fundraising. They would have to come back here and ask permission to do.
I mean, they would have to talk to us, obviously, about it, so that we would know. It's still an advisory committee. Any advisory committee has to work in conjunction with the council. I don't think there's, you know.
They're asking to fundraise on behalf of the town, so
Right.
the town leadership should bless the idea of fundraising.
But Carl, it's doable if we, I mean, within the reason kind of stuff, having them, I just want to make sure we can, because placemakers also will raise money.
Fundraising the town's name, the town should bless it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
shouldn't be fundraising the town's name without any town approval. hence prior approval by the council, say yes.
My question, yeah, that's definitely, obviously, but is that a hard thing to get town approval? If somebody said we wanted to have a picnic at the beach that you pay for? Okay.
I mean, I think everybody here is in agreement that the beautification committee is something that we were looking, obviously, we put it here, we have it here, we want to do it. So, I mean, we're working with you to get
Yeah,
this done. Because, I mean, I think we know, too, there's way too many groups that are out there.
Well, that's
This is
too
trying
many
to put
layers.
everything together, getting one group, one organization together, that there's a lead on it, so that we know where we're heading. We're all working for the same thing. And that's all it is.
So as an example, so if Bruce had an idea, like, let's take the truck, which is down the road, but we got an idea, we need $500 to retrofit a town pickup truck with this thing that Hesser is selling to us, because he's got a bunch of them. It's $1,000. We come to you with a thing, and you guys approve it, it's just a line item thing. I mean, it's never gonna be that easy, but close to that, right? You know, is that what you're thinking?
It's all it is, an open conversation.
Right.
It's up for it, we're, having a discussion about it.
We had issues in the past where people tried to have fundraisers where, there's constraints about what you can do with fundraising if it's something that you're looking for like a lottery or something like that. We can't,
Yeah. I've heard to do that without the town.
well, right, but we had issues in the past where people went ahead and did it and then.
This would all be town acceptable stuff.
Right, so I mean, you would also know that where's the money going?
Yeah, well,
So
that's
that's
it.
like, you're
Here's
gonna
what-
fundraise, but
here's
you know,
the-
you guys are gonna go have a
Here's
wine
an
party.
estimate, here's an invoice, this is what we think it's gonna cost,
Right.
plus or minus 10%, can we do it?
It's just the oversight of it, so that we all know where that money's going and you can allocate for it. and It's
Now
being
you
used for
want-
what
now
it's
you
being
want oversight.
fundraised.
Now you want oversight.
We're trying. All right,
All right.
everybody good so far? All right, so we'll look for a motion then to adopt the advisory committee on beautification.
I'll make that motion.
And a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.
Town
Yeah, but maybe-
The town feels pretty already, doesn't it?
Yep, it sure does.
Why are you still here? Aren't you supposed to be making water flowers?
I got some girls I got to deliver.
Right.
All right, guys.
Okay, next step. I guess there was some discussion about maybe wanting to talk membership now.
Bruce?
You guys want to talk membership now? That's okay.
Whatever.
I mean, do you have a list of names? Do you have
Yeah.
kind of just a process of kind of? Now, these were people that came to an original meeting and then expressed interest to you that they wanted to be on the commission. Okay.
Vince Amino.
John, you're going to be asked.
You might also.
You want us to withdraw
talk
it or
to
what?
the Agricultural Council.
Notice how we waited to say that?
about
Kurt Barker.
water, trying to-
John Olson.
Who's this James Kelly Well?
That's fine.
Yeah, who's she?
I have a person in my place.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I
Okay.
do not mind at all.
Okay. Ooh. Okay.
Oh, add coffee to this?
Okay. Everybody has names here. Proposed members, James Scully Welch, Nick Webb, Susan Kelly, John Allen, Carrie Allen, Diane Nazarko, and Bruce Lake. Okay, so I just talked to Carrie, and I think she understands as well as a council member, maybe she shouldn't be on the advisory committee. She's okay with that.
I would like to propose Emily Cross,
Okay.
who is
Who?
on the
Emily
Chamber
Cross.
of Commerce.
Emily,
Emily
Emily
Cross,
Okay.
she's on the Chamber of Commerce. She
Representative,
runs for
legislator.
Senate.
Yep.
She knows them for.
Yes,
Yes.
she'd be great.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about the names put forth?
Carrie, this will be as an intermediary.
I think she can be involved anyways, right? Yeah.
I'll be at the meeting, so I can.
That's what I mean.
Right, yeah.
liaison.
Any other comments? Look for a motion then to appoint the following members to the beautification committee. Ooh,
So
so this wasn't on? Oh, what was on?
Okay.
Okay, so first we'll need a motion to amend the agenda to add line item for adopting membership to the beautification committee, item number 5A.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Now, we will look for a motion to appoint James Kelly Welch, Nick Webb, Susan Kelly, John Allen, Diane Zarko, and Bruce Lake, and Emily Cross to the beautification committee.
I'll move.
Second,
Second.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, thank you, you have committee, you have members. Now we'll move on to item number 6. transfer for beautification. So, you want to start with the email? There was like an email chain that we all received that they were looking for some funding initially to start the initial project that they have.
Right, so this is $2,400 or $2,040 to be transferred from excess dollar amount in their production of town report to a new line item for the beautification committee. This will purchase a number of planters that are ready to go. And if the commitment isn't made by today, inventory will only go up by tomorrow.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If these planters are all planted, the flowers are in them, everything, this is the cost of the delivered product?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
What kind of plants are they? Like hanging?
Well,
That's
no,
what
no,
I'm
no,
22-inch pockets.
Okay.
and there'll be plants that are suitable for outdoor use. There'll be sturdy type things, not necessarily what you have in your home.
All legal.
No apple trees?
Yeah, I'll leave it.
All legal, nothing illegal.
Chapman?
What's illegal these days?
Good point. All right. And there's 8, apparently, is that the number you're looking for of those? How many planters are
Oh,
looking
there's
for?
24.
24 planters, okay.
Clusters.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any questions? Okay, motion to approve, transfer. A second,
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. So you got committee, you got members, and you got plants.
You got money.
What more do you need, John?
I'm getting out. Sweetie, asked you to leave.
You got your coffee, you're ready.
Right. You came for the free coffee, no?
Thank you, folks.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
Congratulations, Bruce. Thank you.
Bruce?
Thank you, guys.
Richard Martin is in charge of Clinton, he's a Clinton member of the Ag Council. Do you know him? He's got the huge tanks. You never know.
All right, we will now move on to item number 7, which is the town meeting concession stand. We all have it on track.
I continue to have an email from the chairman of the Park and Rec Commission, particularly the commission saw the nature of the contract should be, that this should not be a moneymaker for the town, provide the public, door out there with starting, not finishing, and bringing in people. So, following the meeting of the Park and Rec Commission, that set the wheels in motion. Conversation with the Park and Rec Director, we identified one potential vendor that could operate a concession stand. In case it's overseen, he is interested in running a concession stand under the terms and conditions that were laid out by Park and Rec. So it just requires town council formal final action so that this agreement can be signed and the concession stand can be open.
Questions? I think we've all had this discussion, well, maybe not likely, but a discussion that obviously would be important to get somebody in there, and it's really not a money grab for the town. So it's a benefit for the town. So thank you, Paul, for stepping forward. We could move forward with this. Motion to, for Carl to. That's right.
Say authorization signed.
Okay, second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay, now to noise ordinance report. So I'm sure, as many of you probably heard at some point or another, that people are interested in talking about a noise ordinance. The town does not have a noise ordinance currently on the books. So, you know, we've been asked kind of to have a discussion about this to see if this is something that we may want to look into putting on the books and putting an ordinance together. So it's not it's not as easy as just putting a charge together and having a noise ordinance. So there are things that this involves, budget-wise, training-wise. So it's not as, you know, it's a longer conversation probably than just today. But are we interested in maybe having Carl look into kind of how this would all come about, what the cost associated is would be, the training going forward, you know?
Would that be Carl's job, or would that be committee set up by the town council, that would be their job.
When we last discussed this, I suggested that if the council was interested, that they have a subcommittee themselves to go through the issues, get into the weeds and figure it out.
Yeah.
We didn't get beyond that point. I was asked to get research done by reaching out to CCM, reaching out to CRAD on how noise ordinances work. I've brought noise ordinances to other communities, so I have some prior experience, but nonetheless, did the research. CCM did not provide me with anything. They gave me a general policy guide, which gives a number of ordinances from municipalities, which it's either somebody in land use does it, or usually it defaults to the police department. I spoke to Scott at CRAD. CRAD does not do noise ordinance enforcement. It's not something they do in their basket of activities. It's not really a common thing that health departments do. It's a 24-hour type activity, so it makes more sense to me to 24-hour operation, which is why I more logically default to the police department rather than the health department having to dispatch someone around here from the same. So there's policy issues to be ironed out, where the noise is generated, receiving the noise, what type of exemptions you would cut out based on decibel levels, so the exemption hours where lawn equipment, things like that nature. You would have to do carve-outs for things like the carol that goes on in church. This actually exceeds the noise level. So things like that, you'd have to have individual carve-outs.
So that would be the task of the subcommittee. Correct.
That would have to be delineated by ordinance,
Right.
what the carve-outs are.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like you did your homework, so now it's up to the council, if the council is interested, to create a subcommittee. Okay.
I would serve on such a subcommittee if there were others. If,
I mean, I've been through that.
Okay, once again, our,
Back to the end.
So just so everyone knows, there's about 62 towns in the state that have an ordinance at this point. Westbrook's included, Old Saybrook's included, so we have plenty of people to go to who are looking for guidance or existing ordinances. It's not an onerous, I think, burden to do the ordinance.
So you want to be on the committee?
No, I do not.
Well, thanks for that.
All I'm saying is-
well, listen, we got to do Dennis is not here.
The
We
documents
started the
exist, the
ordinance
ordinances
about this
exist
about
already.
years ago.
Yes.
What became of it?
The ordinance was created and it did not fly to the public.
No, but do we still have written
I don't know.
criteria of what that ordinance
I mean, the
was?
minutes and stuff.
need written guidance because DEEP is gonna set out some
She's asking for
guidelines.
historical
Who
data.
made out the guy?
So DEEP helps with the guidelines and it has to be approved through DEEP as well. We
Oh,
already
Deep,
have
okay.
62 towns doing this that we can pull from. What I'm saying is, I don't necessarily know that we need a subcommittee. If we, as a body, are looking to move this forward to the public to have a conversation, perhaps we should have a meeting and invite the public to it to gauge sentiment. I don't necessarily think, again, that we need to have a subcommittee to go through the process. Statute exists, we have already existing guidance.
Well, especially if you have 62 towns that got it, we could certainly take people to each of those 62 towns and come up with something that makes sense for us.
I think we need public
I think
input.
the opposite. If you hand the public, this ocean of information and say, how do you feel? Everybody's gonna say, oh yeah, we want a noise ordinance. The job of the council is to narrow down the focus and make it specific to Clinton, and then see where the public falls in. I think if you open that topic up, you will never, ever arrive at any sort of a conclusion.
You'll end up
Because it's
exactly
like
where we ended up last time.
Or we'll end up where we ended up with Pearson. Everybody has their opinion and there's no gel at the end of the discussion. I think the committee, we definitely need a subcommittee that will work on creating something that's respectful of all the neighborhoods in Clinton, but cohesive, and present that to the public and get their input at that point. You
but
give
you don't
them
want it to be on.
you give them this huge tapestry, I suppose it could be. Whatever,
I mean, the other thing too is we got to present to the public, obviously, how it all plays out. You know, because
The
there are
cost to
certain
the
things, there's
taxpayers.
a cost to the taxpayers, I mean, so that everybody knows kind of like where we're headed.
Did you say Dennis was going to be on?
Well, he's not here, so yes, he's on.
So he's the man from the chairman.
That's the chair noise.
I would ask that a member of the police department, police commission be on it
Yeah,
then.
but good, how do you? Do
Police
not
commission.
I would imagine if those who are going to enforce it, I would think they'd want to be on it.
Mhm.
They're going to be
No, I think
enforcing
so.
it, right?
Potentially.
Yeah.
They would be ones first. Yes, they would. All right, so we're going to have to reach out to Ed Testament and see if he can give us somebody on the police commission.
So I would suggest we just take a look at Westbrook's and Old Brooks. It's pretty consistent and doesn't deviate too much. Gives you guidance as to how to deal with church, you know, all those issues that might come up. Might cover the substantial amount of work right now. Okay.
It's also the CCM guidance book, which is also
Okay.
Okay?
gives you more municipalities.
That's great. Yeah, okay.
Listen,
Let's-
you retired.
Are
You
we
need something
on?
to do.
Yeah, I know, and I've got 3 meetings today. This is not.
That's just one group.
Yeah. Yeah,
All right,
let's-
so we're good then with forming a committee for the ordinance, for the noise ordinance. Okay? So we're gonna do Carrie, Carol, and we'll ask them. And then a member of the police commission.
That's good.
Good? Okay. All right. Now the next one's gonna be fun. So number 9 is the spending of the nip bottle grant. Big money that we're getting from the nip bottles.
That's incredible.
Do we
Which
have
is a
it,
lot.
well, we're still working on future projects. It seems as though since this is an environmentally
Wait a minute.
It needs to be
Project.
used for litter mitigation.
Okay.
So we discussed what litter mitigation projects could be done. The check just came in last week. I know it was reported in the media, I know it generated a great deal of public interest, a lot of comment about how those dollars should be spent. I just want to make sure everybody understands it's supposed to be spent on litter mitigation. Some of that litter is in fact the bottles themselves. Most of it. There's also other litter that gets generated that gets tossed out of cars. So the intent is to focus on expending dollars to focus on litter mitigation, it's not just a grab to spend on whatever you want. It could be set aside as reserves for future capital projects, but given, well, yes, it's a lot of nip bottles sold, the dollar amount would have to accrue over time if we were to buy something like a street sweeper. It's not enough money to pay for the recycling coordinator, so talking with Todd, we felt that the more standard way we would use those dollars would be over time for public works to be collecting garbage and cleaning up along roadsides. That might be an easier way to expend the dollars, address litter mitigation. Kind of have a feel for where the litter is. There's a certain distance from places where people buy their nip bottles when they go from the liquor store to out the window. There are certain locations where people have finished their drive-through meal and the wrappers and the rest can jump out the window. So long-term, that's probably how we would tend to spend it, assuming nip consumption is maintained at the level that it is at present. Short-term thought was to expend it in order to address litter accumulation in the parking lot across the street behind shops. So there is a litter problem there. A lot of that is also nip bottles. So we'll be going, using the first check to go as far as we can. With Public Works clearing out vegetation that has grown up, removal of litter once we've got the vegetation out, and then covering it with some sort of ground cover so that you have vegetation control, which doesn't provide for hiding of litter that will accumulate in that back area. The litter in that area has a tendency during high rainstorms to find its way down the parking lot, across the grass berm, and into the river. So there is a broader benefit to cleaning up that area. The majority of the area to be cleaned up is technically on private property. There is an easement that goes back to the 1970s that empowers the town to do work back there. That easement states that the work is to be done with dollars provided by the property owners, which probably explains why nothing has been done since the 1970s. In this particular case, we have a source of funds that can address the problem, and the town still has the authorization on their work, and we have the money, and it is one of the bigger litter pockets to be addressed, that needs to be addressed in the short term, and while we transition over to a longer term approach of cleaning the roadways and the rest of accumulated nips and fast food.
Before the beautification committee was formed, a number of us went out Earth Day weekend, I've forgotten, maybe 2 weekends ago. And we, from the CBS, the new CBS, down to the green, we collected litter. 90% of it was from behind this area that we're talking about. It is now clean as it can be in 2 weeks. We got a lot of garbage, which we confess we put into your dumpster. Right now, it's very clean.
Thanks for asking.
Yes.
You know what they say. Right, you are forgiven.
So this would be a great time, and I mean, I would certainly go take a look in DPW, but we really did clean it up as well as we could. It would be a great time to mow.
Project One.
Well,
It's a litter mitigation program.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not a beautification program, it's a litter
But the-
removal program.
yes, but to get the greens out,
Just
just makes
get-
it easier to clean.
Get the litter mitigation addressed. So we are addressing
Okay.
litter out
Okay.
there.
Okay, we addressed that.
If it was some sort of stipend to Public Works, would they be willing to do the marshes? Because a substantial amount of those bottles are in our marsh area, all around.
In our marsh area, because they wash out of that parking lot.
Route 1 going down over by the recycling facility, it's really pervasive. So they're gonna have to have hip hoops and all that. I mean, I would, if they're willing to do that, I think that would
We
be.
can only go as far as we can go with the monies that we have. The checks come every 6 months. So we've already addressed the accounting of it to set it aside. So the accounting treatment is where it's how the dollars get expended, and we can go as far as we can go with the dollars that we have.
How much do we get?
7,500
Instead of sending out.
Based upon the sale of the.
based on the
Sale
sale.
of the nets.
Oh, so that's how the deposit works.
Correct.
It doesn't go back to the person.
Doesn't look good
who bought
then.
it.
It's not that you take the little bottle and trade it in for 5 cents. The 5 cents is levied on the front end. So the distributors are releasing the check back to the towns based on lip sales.
So I guess we sell them.
158,000 in 6
You're not supposed to bring that up, Carol, on Saturday.
Oh, sorry.
We got to have some.
That,
in here. But at least, listen, at least we're gonna be able to clean things up.
yeah.
I have a great idea.
Have at it. What do you got? Carol,
You know, this is just pretty fun. Go to those areas where they specifically are, and I can tell you three, because when you put those signs out at campaign time, you see a lot of nips in these abandoned areas. You get trash cans with a target above them in this area, and just have people aim for the target and the nip
That'll
will
work.
Yeah, but then you gotta make sure that when they
Problem
use it, they pick it
solved.
up.
They might be a little drunk.
Mr. Target.
I don't know.
Can you imagine?
I mean, this is gonna be.
I'm just getting the water bottles and make it discouraged.
Well, that would discourage littering because they'd be aiming for the target.
A lot of people will be going to the meeting. My guess is that that will not discourage them.
I mean, I guess the thing is that obviously we have the money to be used for this, and, you know, obviously it would be helpful to continuing on an ongoing basis, keep up where.
Short term, high spot, and then more a long-term structural
Yes.
program to address it on a regular ongoing basis rather than one time.
I think it's a great idea. So what you were saying, Carl, this project specifically is to clean up the litter, but that will lead to the next step of cleaning up the vegetation and take care of the rodent issue and all that.
We have a project which will help with the mitigation on that property, short term and long term. obviously, aside from Carol's suggestion, we can't control how people consume their deposits and where they choose to deposit them. Moving plants out of the area, make it clearer that where the water has been chucked.
So 7,900, I think 6 months. or something.
No, it's all based upon how many we sell.
It's based on sales, so if sales drop,
Keep up the sales. Town supports them sales, I don't know what we said.
It's a lot of fireball.
we probably don't want to say that.
All right. So good, this is we got to try going forward. Good. On to council discussions, future projects and correspondence. Anyone have anything they'd like to discuss at this point?
The correspondence that was sent that we received from Kevin Southwood. I know Kevin Southwood, and I got in touch with them, and I told him that $6 million was not correct.
Where did he come up with that?
I don't know. You know, there's not a lot of information out there sometimes, so when that happens, when there's a vacuum, people make some mistakes.
As for future projects, I'd like to keep in mind the idea of DPW, providing DPW, council providing DPW with the means to water beautification projects, garden club projects. I'd just like to have that on the horizon.
Was this something we'll be discussing tonight?
What? Goal setting.
Projects, goal setting?
Goal setting tonight, these are just.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Anybody else? All good.
I think it would be very prudent of us to start looking at our future of Pearson. Next year, potentially, I'm seeing a lot of money being allocated to different towns for community centers, rehab of existing centers. Might be nice if we could come up with a one-year plan to have that in place so that we know what type of financial obligation the town has to Pearson. I know the roof needs to be done, we're talking $2 million plus for that right there. If we're going to maintain, continue to use the building. If we're going to transition to some sort of municipal use, what that's going to look like in terms of financial. I know we're going towards that, but if we can set a timeline for it, I think it would be better off so that we could potentially ask for future money from the state, such as other towns have done.
We're still awaiting clean title, huh?
Yep.
Doesn't mean we can't continue the conversation and start
We
the
always have a
process.
theoretical conversation about capital expense and then corresponding operating expense. We have a guesstimate that was provided in the engineering report for what. we
Carl, you have to
expense.
speak up louder, I'm sorry, you have a fan above me.
We have to talk about capital expense and operating expense. You already have in the engineering report a guesstimate of what the rehab expense could cost for the building to clean it up and make it available. You don't have a program for how you use it, so that obviously influences where the capital expense goes.
In terms of the future use, I mean, we did do the charrette, but I think at this point, the data from the charrette, because of COVID, because things are different now, I don't think we can point to that exactly. I think we need another opportunity to hear from the public as to what the future use of that building should be, so that everybody's on board with it. I need to see us move along with some sort of concept and the public not be in agreement. I don't know how this council would like to do that, if we're willing to get public input again as to the future use.
It might be helpful to have a focused conversation instead of the shotgun approach. Charrette delivered a lot of information, and some of it was contradictory of each other, so there wasn't a clear theme of what was coming out of that. So it might be helpful to steer a public conversation into looking at a few specific uses, gauge feedback from a menu rather than a shotgun approach, which gives you what it gives you.
We can
So
do
it
it
gives you a
online.
consensus.
We could do an online survey, post it on the town website, something along that line to start getting public comments.
But again, public comments, again, I think up front, you know, we need to be more directive on kind of where we're heading with this. Because we're going to get public comments, the public comments are going to be all over the board on what people think that they should do with the building. I think that we need to then provide them information up front before we go to the public input and and online surveys and everything else to let them know, if we do this, this is what it will cost. If we do this, they need the options of what, so as a council, we need to come to some sort of consensus on keep it, sell it, you know, some sort of, you know, have this, have whatever it may be. There's a lot of options out there, but if we specify a couple different options that we can give to the public, then we can say to them, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars if we want to keep this building. Then it's going to cost operationally X amount of dollars. People need to understand if we keep the building, there's going to be operation costs that we have on this building, that now you're looking at a tax increase because that's going to have an effect on that. They need to be given that information so that when they come to a meeting, they can then, you know, have the information that they need to have a fruitful discussion about what we do with this. This is it. I mean, once we do something with that building, that's it. And I mean, this is our last big asset that this town has at this particular time. So it's a big decision. Ultimately, it'll be a council decision. So I think it's council concession on kind of what maybe different options we want to do with that building.
And to communicate those to the public, so you're prepared for the.
So when they come in, you know, hey, it's going to cost $12 million to make it what you would like. So at least, because it's going to go to a vote anyways. So, you know, I mean, we can say, right now, we can say, let's make the senior center, a community center, and it's going to cost us $15 million. Let's vote on it. You know, I mean, I don't think that's the way to go about it. You know, let's give
And
them.
also to get, and to get the information about what money is available from the state beforehand. So that's a lot of information we need to gather.
The
Absolutely.
state won't
Well, it depends on what the use is
available
gonna
from the
be,
state until we have a plan. You
No.
can't go to the, you can't.
But
go
that
to
could
the
be
state.
part of the conversation, right?
I mean, it's.
Once we, yeah, right, it's nebulous, but.
Yes.
Right.
Well, at this point, I feel as though Pearson, we need to start moving forward with the conversation in some capacity, whether or not we as a council create a subcommittee to start focusing on it and drilling down the different options, the costs associated, whether we're waiting for Carl to give us that information as to, you know, I think we need to start the process.
I think we have started the process. I think this Pearson's been discussed since Carl got here.
I'm talking about the process of its future use, not in terms of the site grade action or dealing with the trust. I'm talking about the actual plans, creating constructive plans where we can start a community conversation.
So
Yeah, but I think every council member needs to be involved in that. I don't think the subcommittee is how we go about that. I think as every council member should have a say, because ultimately the decision on what happens with Pearson falls to this council.
Do you want to set a future date, you know, a month from now, having a meeting, some sort of meeting specifically, town council meeting specifically focused on the conversation of Pearson, nothing else?
I think we're waiting for the title to clear, but we've been just waiting. I know it's a long process. It seems to me like we can be fairly certain there will be a resolution. So let's start to move forward contingent on the title clearing.
We can work in tandem.
Yep. We can do that.
So I'll make a motion to set a future meeting date.
Bless you. We can just set up a, bless you. We'll send out an email to everybody, put a workshop together.
Yeah, just give a couple of dates so we can all make sure we're there. Can we have it in the evening too?
Sure.
Thanks.
More on your game in the evening.
What's that?
You're more on your game in the evening.
There's coffee.
I've had my coffee, that's fine.
All right. Any other discussions? All right, you're enough move on chairman's report. So just a reminder that tonight we have the goal setting meeting that we have this evening at 5 o'clock. And we have the annual budget meeting after that. I just kind of want everybody to make sure that they take a look at the information that Carl provided to everybody so that we read that before the meeting, so that we're up to date on what the previous council did, so that if there's things we want to update or do differently, then at least we're all, you know, going into the meeting with some understanding on about where the previous council was and where the new council wants to go.
Just a stupid question is, I'm having trouble getting training out.
Yeah, and Carrie did as well.
I have it.
Oh, no, I got it from there.
Yeah.
It's Mary's fault.
Huh?
It's Mary's fault. Carl's fault, he put it out.
What meeting is at 6?
Annual budget meeting?
But that's at
That's
6, not at 7. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
that's it. Right, that's really that meeting. It's fairly simple. So,
It's an instant adjournment.
yeah.
What do you do? Get the
You read the
language for the
resolution.
referendum? You get the language for the referendum, just the language?
Approving the questions.
Okay, got it.
All right, that's it for me.
Okay.
And town manager's report.
A couple couple items. The budget at the state level appears to be settled. The anticipated grants and aid coming from the state are in line with what the governor's proposed budget was. So that does not open up a hole in our budget as we've seen in prior years, so that's a positive note. Previously, I've reported the desire to work on a regional coastal resiliency plan where Clinton will be working with Westbrook and Saybrook and Rural Fenwick to get a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant that would do some of the planning work for us. The National Fish and Wildlife reviewed the initial write-up. They're positive. They gave some feedback, so some additional information needs to go forward. The three towns are putting that together. One of it would be letters of support at the local level. So unless I hear otherwise, I'll put together a letter of support from the council. The council is on board with this as a project. That can go off to National Fish.
Do you want other letters, like on sustainability, or are you good?
At this point, they want to limit it to 5 letters, so I think we're good.
Okay, good.
That's it.
All right. Item number 13, Town Council Committee Liaison Reports. Does anybody have anything to report?
I want to thank the fire department for inviting us.
Oh, yes.
I want to go on.
Anybody else? All right. Here none, we'll move on to adjournment.
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? See you all at 5 o'clock.